You know, every once in a while, my words really do fail me. You know, when coming across habitat like this. It is absolutely spectacular. Just bedrock, completely unlike nearly anything else in New England except for along the Connecticut River Valley. Really spectacular. Let's go poke around some more. Yeah, okay, here you get a really clear idea of what the geology's doing. We're down underneath this more or less sheer cliff here. Gonna go back up there around the other side. But that is fundamentally what you're working with. Just cobbles cemented together in some sort of other, rock face. God, I could spend as much time looking at the freaking geology here as I do, I guess you'd say, topography? Yeah, it doesn't really matter, semantics. I could spend as much time looking at the rocks as I could looking at the plants, if you catch my drift. Okay, we're going to start right here with this guy right here. I'm pretty sure I've seen this plant before, but I don't think I've ever talked about it in a video. Kind of a, not unusual, not rare, but likes a specific type of habitat. This is a species of Thalictrum, which, I mean, if you've been paying attention lately, and if you've watched any of my garden videos, you'll know that I get a real affinity for this subfamily Thalictroideae, for this genus Thalictrum, and for a number of the species within it. So Thalictrum pubescens is one that I've definitely covered in numerous videos. That's a common one. This is Thalictrum dioicum, which we'll get into in 1 second. Thalictrum thalictroides, which also goes by the name Anemonella thalictroides, is one that I have planted in my garden. That's going to be in the video coming out before this, or a little, recently. I've always put the thumbnail up for you to figure out what exactly the heck I'm talking about. But okay, so Thalictrum thalictroides is fascinating because, to me, this is the plant that bridges the gap between Thalictrum and between Aquilegia, which we're going to talk about right after this. So Thalictrum are, I guess they're not all tall, but a lot of them are tall, emergent forbs. Some of them come up in fields. This one, much like its friend, the Columbine, comes up on rocky hillsides, although I don't see them growing together. So there is, clearly some difference between, the habitat affinities. This one has a couple of cool quirks, but first I will just let you know this species of Thalictrum is dioecious. I think almost all of them are, except I know Thalictrum thalictroides isn't, but then again, that's in its own genus. Maybe it should be in its own genus, Anemonella. But a lot of the Thalictrums are dioecious, which means there's male plants and there's female plants. The vast majority of angiosperms are bisexual. That doesn't mean they swing both ways. It means they have both parts bi to sexual anatomy. You get the idea. So in focus right now is a male, and what you're going to notice, a couple key synapomorphies about the family Ranunculaceae here. They usually have showy flowers, and they're doing it without petals per se. So this guy has sepals kind of forming a cup over those stamens hanging down there, and I just want you to keep that image in your head of those stamens hanging down. Just keep that in your head, because we're going to go look at Aquilegia canadensis in a second here. You're going to notice a lot of similarity in the stamen morphology. It's a highly plastic genus. Like, their flowers can look like anything, but then it is subfamily, I should say. But then if you actually sit down and think about it, you realize it's the same basic components. Lots of stamens, usually dangling, elaborate sepal morphology, not petals. A lot of Ranunculaceae does not have true petals. They have sepals, and they're working with those rather than their petals. And the other key feature being there, once you know what the leaves in this family look like, especially within the subfamily Thalictroideae, you will have a hard time, sorry about that, I just thought I knocked something out of my camera, you will have a hard time mistaking them for anything else. So you'll see leaves like that on the other Thalictrums. You'll see leaves like that on Columbine. In fact, you will see leaves that look like that on many plants in the broader order Ranunculaceae. Okay, just give you one last close-up of those flowers. Remember, sepals up top, not petals, those are just the anthers. And then you come down here. Alright, that's the female version of the plant. Those are just, those are, for lack of a better term, just nothing but pistils, technically speaking. Pardon me, with the zoom here. In the most technical sense, those are stigmas and styles. Ovary would be down to the base. Nice big patch of them up there. Still on the cliffy, talus-y habitat, but not quite as steep as some of the other parts around here. Maybe that has to do with it. But I saw that patch coming down. And this frequently co-occurs, although not directly from what I can tell, like not immediately next to it, with our target plant for today, which we'll do a couple more, the more abundant plants, then we'll talk about that guy. So Thalictrum, Thalictrum, dioicum, early meadow-rue, or early whatever rue, coming up in this type of habitat, and Ranunculaceae is the winner for today. Okay, took a little bit of finessing to get the camera in a good spot to do this, but here's a plant you would expect to see any shaded, forest, ledgy habitat. Could be growing off the side of a big enough rock, not necessarily super special to this area, but nonetheless, obviously doing very, very well in it. This is Aquilegia canadensis, rather well-known plant, red columbine, widespread across the east. Actually one, a native plant you'll see planted out from time to time. And it's also in the family Ranunculaceae, and it's also in the subfamily Thalictroideae. So you're probably thinking, well, geez, this is a showy, very cool, showy plant. The heck does this have to do with, that Thalictrum you just showed us? This looks nothing like it. Well, I'm happy that you are, wrong. In fact, this is a very close relative and does, besides some superficial differences, actually bear a striking anatomical similarity to the Thalictrums. So Aquilegia, which is the genus here, is not dioecious. They are bisexual, like most flowers. This flower has both male and female reproductive parts in it. The first thing you're noticing is these massive spurs here, and those are, this does have petals. Those are modified petals. What those are actually tubes for hummingbirds and for other pollinators to get up in and get a little, get a little blast of nectar. This does have petals and sepals. I said most, not all, Ranunculaceae will have that. But take a look, hopefully that's translating, take a look at those anthers packed in there. The downward dangling, whole bunch of them. You've got your, very hard to make out there, but your little stigma there at the tip at the very, very bottom, and thus indicating that this is in fact a bisexual flower. And most damning of all, see if I can do this without losing my camera. Look at those leaves. Now, doesn't that look familiar? A lot of plants not within the family Ranunculaceae, Caulophyllum Thalictroides, blue cohosh comes to mind immediately, bear species epithets hearkening to their similarity to the leaves of the plants in this subfamily. They're very distinct. So Thalictrum, Aquilegia, technically Anemonella, will hop off the Thalictroideae portion of our Ranunculaceae rant today. And now, actually, we're going to go look at a honeysuckle first. We're going to go look at one more thing, then we'll go check out our target species and a few of the forest species growing around us. So, just wanted to cue you in on that. God, this is going to be difficult. They're doing well here. I've done a whole plant spotlight. There we go. Done a whole plant spotlight on this species. You can go check that out. But, no need to drag this out longer than it is. Just nice to have a cool Thalictrum blooming with a Aquilegia, in the same video that I'm going to go check out a really cool member of the family Ranunculaceae. So we'll cut that off there. Okay, we'll take a brief break from the Ranunculaceae to talk about something in Caprifoliaceae. A family that for the longest time I was simply misled was not really, we didn't really have any cool native ones. We have quite a few actually, including an entire genus that I just wasn't aware of called Triosteum, which we're going to have to wait till like end of July, August to go talk about that genus. But here's a spring blooming member of the family. This is Lonicera canadensis. Contrary to the dreaded, Lonicera japonica, Lonicera mororii, the whole gauntlet of invasive, Tartarian honeysuckle, Japanese honeysuckle. There's more, believe me. There's quite a few invasive species of honeysuckle. This is one of the nice native American honeysuckles. This is Lonicera canadensis. All right, so American honeysuckles, or I should say North American honeysuckles, take on a little bit of a different habit than a lot of the Eurasian honeysuckles. Different flowers, typically. Ours have more tubular flowers. You'll see that with Lonicera sempervirens, which I guess technically is just barely native to New England, but mostly it's a southeastern species. Lonicera canadensis here has these nice tubular flowers. I can't remember offhand. It's not a Lonicera true honeysuckle. It's Diorvella Lonicera, but the mountain honeysuckle. I can't remember what those look like offhand, but by and large, your North American honeysuckles are having these nice tubular flowers, always paired off in twos, just like, Linnea borealis, the twin flower, iconic, boreal plant. Just generally speaking, Caprifoliaceae, at least those that are honeysuckle adjacent, I'm not sure, but the minutiae of, the subfamilies and tribes within Caprifoliaceae, but the honeysuckles and twin flowers, by and large, are doing their flowers in pair of two. Triosteum does it a little bit differently, where they're kind of back to back. That's a wild looking plant. I can't wait to cover that in a few months. But for now, we're just talking about this nice native Lonicera canadensis. The only gripe I have with it is it does not smell intoxicating like a number of the other species in its family do. Hanging out on the ledge here, participating in this cool climate. Actually, quite a few of them now that I'm looking, and still some flowers and buds. So, kind of early right now, but I mean, this guy will be. I think they can linger into June in some environments. But look into the native Caprifoliaceae here in New England. We've got native honeysuckles in two different genuses. We've got Linnea borealis, which is basically like a boreal. You got to go to like Arctic refuge yet to see that really cool bog plant. Triosteum, which I hope to cover. Yada yada yada, and then of course you've got the myriad, Eurasian species like your, Valerian, and then your whole host of actually super invasive Lonicera species from Eurasia. So just wanted to give this guy a shout out, and I think with that we'll go check out our target species, and then we might look at 2 or 3 other cool things on the way out. Okay, trailing ever so gracefully in and amongst the ferns here on this precarious little outcrop, we have our target species today. Sorry for kind of edging you on this, but you'll learn to love it. It's, I did, you did. Well, you don't have to get into it. It's no shame in it. You got to build anticipation. You know what I mean? So this is, again, in the family of Ranunculaceae, kind of hard to see just because of how it does its things. But that purple flower down there, which I've come to realize does not actually really get much more open than it is. Oh, I'm focusing on the wrong thing. There we go. That's much better. There we go. This is Clematis occidentalis. All right. So this would be a great point to stop and actually put up the distribution map of this, because I don't know. I've covered Clematis virginiana, which is substantially more common, but this is quite the rare plant in New England, and that population map will kind of hopefully give you an idea of what the global population looks like. I believe it is more common down in the southeast, but I digress. So Clematis, the virgin bowers, I just prefer calling them Clematis. Usually they're called fall Clematis. The common name for this one is purple Clematis. It's got Clematis and it's purple. It works for me. Needs this very specific, rocky, talusy habitat to grow in. Likes it wet. To my knowledge, Clematis virginiana is not nearly as picky. Just like the Lonicera we were just talking about, there's a number of aggressive non-native species that in other areas, not here, but in other areas, have, I believe, almost, come close to wiping this thing out, because it can outcompete, those can outcompete it. Clematis is an ecologically, important genus. It has a lot of Lepidoptera, so butterflies and moths, hosting on it. Don't ask me the certain specifics of what species. I can try to find a number or a specific cool one that hosts on this species. I know that certainly that's true for Clematis virginiana. And you're thinking, okay, now you're really, fucking with me, because you showed me a Thalictrum, then you showed me a Columbine that looked nothing like it. Now you're showing me this vining thing that looks nothing like either of them. What the hell are you doing? Well, again, I told you, you got to pay attention to the reproductive structures on these things. Look inside there and tell me what you see. You see dangly bits, don't you? You see very elaborate sepals and a lack of petals. I'll double check on that, but I do believe that this does not have, it's a uniseriate perianth. It does not have the petals, just the sepals. I don't really want to do too much to disturb this particular individual, but I do believe that these are bisexual. I'll double check that. I didn't see a stigma in there, but it could just be very small and thread-like, like it is on Columbine. Certainly, I'm looking at a different one right now. It is packed with stamens and packed with pollen. So this is full bloom for these guys. This is what they look like. They make these little purple shrouds around their, around their stamens and presumably the style. So that is the common theme. One of the common themes in Ranunculus, you got to pack it with pistils and stamens. Uniseriate perianth is very common. You don't see that on Aquilegia, but you do on a number of others. And then, this is actually not true for every species of Clematis, but it's true for our two native New England ones. Your heavily dissected leaves. So, dissected compound leaves with interesting leaflet shapes too. So, this is one I've been wanting to kind of see, because I got really into Ranunculus last year, and I tracked down Clematis virginiana, which seemed to be having a tough year. This is a really rare species here in New England. Not the rarest of the rare. I want to say it's S2 or S3. It's in decline, which is a big part of the issue. It's formerly not as rare, now rare and declining due to a myriad of factors. Most specifically, I believe, just, a trampling of the habitat, introduction of invasive species. I'm not sure if climate change is having as much to do with it as a southern trending species, or at least, one that does occur more commonly where it's a bit warmer than here. I doubt climate change is a factor. It really seems to be degradation of habitat and introduction of competing invasive species, especially other species of Clematis from, most of them come from East Asia. It's got that East Asia, North America disjunct. You probably have some Clematis in Europe too, but I'm not so sure about that. So, beautiful vining Clematis occidentalis. Large, that's a decent sized flower there. Beautiful leaves, vining habit. On the other side, I'll cut the video and I'll show you how it's trailing down off of it, but it was a little bit easier to get the flowers in detail from up here. So we're going to go look at that, and then we'll move on from this. But this one I was really excited to find. I scrambled down a rock pile stupidly, thinking that that's where it was, and then I saw it, got down, realized that there's actually a trail cutting through here, and that it's very easily accessible if I had actually just gone the extra 1,000 feet and walked around where I was. So we'll go see what this thing looks like coming down from the other side of its little perch here. And yeah, okay, there you go. You can see this thing likes to trail off the rock faces where it's nice and safe. That's another issue with this plant, with this whole genus. Heavy influence from deer browse. I know that white-tailed deer, just from my own personal gardening experience and seeing it, is almost a ruderal plant. Clematis virginiana gets absolutely decimated by deer. And as you know, we in our infinite wisdom decided to wipe out the predators and welcome the deer. And now they're just gonna eat everything, and we're gonna pretend like it's not a problem, because, you know, God, I mean, if you shoot if you're you're just a chicken shit. I'm sorry. It's like, I get it, especially, you know, trust me, take it from me. I've had pets killed by, you know, wild predators. They're just doing their thing, man. The vendetta is not going to be as sweet when you know, give them their comeuppance as you think it is. You know, people who shoot snakes, people who shoot coyotes, especially if you're just doing it like out away from your property, that's chicken shit behavior. Just absolute cowardice. You know, they're dangerous. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, what animal kills more humans per capita in a given year than any other animal? I think both per capita, so in relation to their total population, and just a lump sum numbers, it's people. I'm more afraid of, you know, your average emotionally disturbed, you know, conservative American male than I am of any wild animal. I've been attacked by humans. I've you know, yet to be accosted by a wild animal any more aggressive than a particularly feisty red squirrel. So, you know, be that as it may, God, I really went on a tangent there. That started off me talking about deer browsing. So be that as it may, this species, it's doing well here. It's got a few other strongholds in and around the region. I think that there's other spots in this very mountain range, mountain being pretty generous, in this general topographic region that this species occurs in. But yeah, we're just going to go with this one nicely illuminated, full bloom specimen. We're going to leave it at that. Just to really annoy you, check that out down there. Let's wiggle down. Just to give you an idea of how varied and diverse this family can be here in New England. Here's another Ranunculus. This is actually in the genus Ranunculus. This is Ranunculus arborvitus. Probably saying that wrong. It's the common small buttercup. So this one is really common in the forests around here. And again, uniseriate perianth. Lots of stamens packed in there. This one's bisexual. That green lump in the center, there's a massive stigmas. Individual, I think that they have individual ovaries is what I'm trying to say. Each stigma corresponds to its own little carpel, which is unusual. That's you know, these are bases. I probably should have said that early on. Ranunculaceae is a rather basal lineage of angiosperm. Not quite a magnoliid, but I believe it is. I'll put up where exactly it falls out. And again, heavily dissected leaves. You think I'm crazy until you start paying attention to the ingredients. You can take flour, you can take, you know, flour, egg, sugar, little pinch of salt, little baking soda, mix a ton of different flavorings in there, change the temperature, change the consistency, change the ratio. You're still going to end up with something resembling a cake. Much is still the same case with plants. You can take all these different ingredients, but if you're working with the same few basic core tenets, it's going to be in that family, man. Anyway, that's enough about Ranunculaceae for today. Happy I got to show you that cool rare one. And I think I've got, oh, there were two nice things to see on the way out that we can go check out. All right, take it easy. Okay, now we're up on one of the higher ledges. And just briefly wanted to show you Sambucus racemosa. Not in Caprifoliaceae. Why am I blanking on what family this is in? They moved it around. Not a Doxaceae either. Sambucus. I have to go back and figure that out. Anyway, you can tell it's Sambucus racemosa, red-berried elder, instead of Sambucus nigra, or canadensis, I think they're calling it now, which they split the Eurasian species and North American species. Black elderberry, Eurasian black elderberry is now nigra, in the North American ones, no canadensis. But anyway, it smells delightful from here. And I actually don't like being up here nearly as much as I thought it would. Nice compound leaves on that thing too. Almost looks like it doesn't belong here, but it's a native one. Oh, you can tell the difference between racemosa and canadensis because this one has almost pyramid-shaped panicles of flowers instead of the flat-topped ones like canadensis does. Okay, and lastly here, we have a cool maple that I've never caught blooming, but now have. This is Acer pensylvanicum, the striped maple. Sorry, I'm out of breath. You know, classic inhabitant of these like rich deciduous forests, growing here on the upper slope amongst the Sambucus and what looks to be, you know, beech and sorry, not beech, hemlock, and you know, lots of other myriad of the nice species. But anyway, what we really want to look at on this guy is his beautiful flowers. I pointed out to someone recently the flowers on a Norway maple, and I said, oh, you know, I really hate the species of tree because it's invasive as hell, but it has pretty flowers. They looked at me and they said, that's a tree. They didn't know that basically every tree, unless it's a conifer, which is only, you know, 12 species of plant here in New England, is going to flower. Just because you don't recognize them as flowers doesn't mean that they're not there. Most maples have these beautiful green flowers. Red maple, Acer has red flowers, and a lot of them. This, looking to be no exception, are also dioecious, or at least monoecious. I forget this, I screwed this up last year. Okay, they're monoecious. It's going to be male and female flowers on the same plant. So these are the male flowers right here. Parts of 5, little 5 styles in there. And then over here, pardon the sloppy camera work for just a second. Oh no, that's still more male. It's still more male flowers. Ooh, Jesus! Scared the shit out of a turkey vulture. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. I think that's enough for now. I think I need some water and some food. Good thing I packed a lunch. I'll put it down below. I can't recall right now exactly what the reproductive strategies of most maples are, but these are almost certainly flowers packed with stamens. So anyway, we're gonna cut it off there. Ended up being a pretty good video. Glad it came out. We'll see you next time.